So I recently had a question from someone that wanted to know, can keto help my liver, because they had cirrhosis and they wanted to know if there's anything that can be done about it. So let's talk about that. What is cirrhosis? It's an advanced liver disease where the liver has filled up with scar tissue. And this is because the liver has been under this constant inflammatory state where the body is then healing with scar tissue. Now, in a normal liver, you can filter 1.7 liters of blood every single minute, okay? That's a lot of recycling. So you have this filter going on right here. And the liver has about 500 different functions. It also helps make bile that helps you extract fat-soluble vitamins from the food. And your liver can make 1 liter of bile every single day. It has incredible restorative repair functions, but there is going to be a point of no return where the liver is too damaged and it can't come back. One of the big problems with the liver being cirrhotic is that the nutrition from the blood that comes from the small intestine is flooding into the liver, but it can't go in here anymore because it's filled with scars, so it backs up. So you have this huge pressure problem outside the liver, and that's where you see high blood pressure, you see all sorts of complications. You start seeing a condition called ascites, where there's fluid backing up into the sac around the abdomen. So if you ever see someone that's thin with this huge protruded belly, that could be a liver problem. One is called spider Nevi, which is a little area of on your skin where you have this like spider veins emanating from a central location. Jaundice, where your whites of your eyes become yellow, your skin becomes yellow. Breast tissue, simply because you can no longer get rid of the excess amount of estrogen. The liver acts as a buffer for certain hormones, like estrogen and even testosterone. Also an enlarged liver because of the backup situation. We mentioned ascites. Testicular atrophy is one of the symptoms. High blood pressure, we talked about that. And also a musty breath, kind of like a chronic halitosis, bad breath situation. Okay, let's go to the next chart right here. To the causes. If you look up the causes, you'll see viruses at the top of the list, as in hepatitis. That creates inflammation, which then leads to scar tissue, because the scar tissue is really the healing response to the inflammation. And then you have high iron. Why? Because iron is very corrosive, creates oxidation to the different tissues. Of course, alcohol and medications. But usually what is missing is the number one cause, and that is high amounts of insulin and insulin resistance. Because high insulin and high glucose create inflammation, which leads to scar tissue. Yet this one right here is probably the most common, yet it's rarely emphasized. So what is the treatment medically for liver cirrhosis? Well, it's basically you just treat the complications, the symptoms, and you wait for a liver transplant. Now, there are two types of cirrhosis, okay? You have compensated cirrhosis and decompensated cirrhosis. What does that mean? In compensated, you have severe scarring, but you have enough healthy liver cells to function. The liver is really, really robust, and it can survive a lot of damage, and it has an incredible capacity to repair if it's not decompensated, okay? In this condition, it's beyond repair, too much damage, so you have fluid backup, edema in your legs, you get mental confusion, mood and personality disorders because the ammonia is backing up into the brain. All right, so what can you do about this? What can you do with both conditions? Well, you want to get on a ketogenic plan because the very cause of the scar tissue was inflammation. So lowering your carbs, doing intermittent fasting can bring down the inflammation. If you test someone with cirrhosis, you're always going to find low amino acids in the blood. They have a protein deficiency because the liver is so damaged, it can't manufacture proteins anymore. So you have a protein deficiency in the body, and the body is actually breaking down muscle protein to try to compensate. And if you actually consume too much protein, you can get too much waste products from that protein, urea, and eventually ammonia, okay? So what can you do? Well, this is what I would do if I had that condition. I would actually take pure amino acids as a supplement in a powder, okay, or in a tablet. You can take the essential amino acids, okay, in the right amounts. There's certain products out there, which will be 99% absorbed without the waste products, okay? So that's number one. Number two, I would take electrolytes, because usually you're going to have fluid and edema that's backing up, so we need to increase more potassium and magnesium to push that fluid out. I would also recommend taking bile salts. Why? Because you're not able to make the bile anymore because you have too much scar tissue. And the bile is necessary for a lot of things, including the absorption of vitamin A, D, E, and K. So I would take purified bile salts with cod liver oil and maybe some vitamin D and K2 to really start increasing the absorption of the fat-soluble vitamins. And because bile is recycled by the microbes, I would take a really good probiotic. I would also take apple cider vinegar to improve the blood sugar situation, because you're going to have insulin resistance as well, so this can help that greatly. And I would also consume a large amount of vegetables for the chlorophyll, for the phytonutrients, for the antioxidants, and I would also include celery. Celery has a unique property of breaking down ammonia in the body. So that would be one good solution, and it's actually very natural without any side effects. Definitely do low carb. That's going to drop the inflammation. I would also do intermittent fasting, hardcore, and I would do a moderate amount of fat, simply because the person won't have the bile salts to break down fat. And I would do a moderate amount of fat, not necessarily a high-fat diet, but a moderate amount, simply because it's going to take a lot of bile to break down that fat, and if you don't have it, it can back up to the system. All right, thanks for watching. So if you want to get notified with all my content, click the notification bell next to subscribed.